Good morning, students. Today we'll be starting with a new chapter. The name of the chapter is Plant Kingdom. This is the third chapter of your NCERT book. I have read the second chapter as of now. I'll tell you later why. We moved on to the third chapter. The name of the chapter is Plant Kingdom. Before I start with this chapter, let me tell you, you'll have to work a little more harder now because we are going to actually start studying biology. Whatever we did in the first chapter was something very general, it was something very common. So now, from today onwards, whatever is done on the day, please make sure that you revise the same thing the same day. These days you have time in the evening, so you are saving on a lot of energy, you are not coming to school, you are not spending time on transportation, so you can surely give time for your revisions. If you miss out on one day work, your work will get piled up and you will get confused. Because class 11th basically deals with all the classification. This is something which is a little typical when it comes to biology. Class 12th biology is very easy, it is very interesting, very easy. But when it comes to class 11th, it's a little tricky. It's a little tricky because it's all learning beta. It is all of learning. If I say classification, it is all of a learning process. So what I need is, you need to learn. These are some facts which you have to learn. So it is better you learn daily. I am starting with Plant Kingdom today. In the first chapter, I had already discussed with you that Whittaker had introduced a 5-kingdom classification. If you remember, out of those 5 kingdoms, one kingdom which he gave was Plantae. So we are taking up that kingdom in detail today. That is your Plantae. What I am talking about is the Plant Kingdom. Now there have been a lot of changes in this kingdom as well, with new developments, new discoveries, new inventions, new information coming up. There have been a lot of changes in this kingdom which we call as Plantae or what we call as the Plant Kingdom. For example, see beta, fungi, some of the Moneras and the Protistas. I am talking about some Moneras, some Protistas, some members of fungi, they had cell walls. Earlier, because they had cell walls, they were put with Plantae. Listen again, I am talking about 3. I am talking about some members of fungi, some members of Monera and some members of Protista. They were put along with plants. They were put in which kingdom? Plants. Plant kingdom or Plantae. Reason being that they had cell walls. But later it was found that it is not appropriate to keep them in the plant kingdom, so they were removed from the plant kingdom. Where they went, what happened, we will study later. As of now, we are studying the history of plant kingdom. In plant kingdom, some members of fungi, Monera, Protista, they were kept in plant kingdom. And why were they kept in plant kingdom? Because they have cell walls. But later, they were removed. Similarly, cyanobacteria, which is commonly known as blue-green algae. I am sure you heard about this. Cyanobacteria, whose common name is blue-green algae, is no more an algae. It is not an algae. So, we are not keeping it in algae category at all. So, these are some changes you will make sure that you understand that this plant kingdom has changed over time. It is not what Whittaker told us. There have been a lot of changes in the plant kingdom. 2 major changes, if you remember, I told you. Some members, that is fungi, Monera and Protista, which were earlier put in the plant kingdom because they had cell walls, have now been removed from the plant kingdom. Similarly, cyanobacteria, that is blue-green algae, is not no more considered as an algae. Now, before I start with Plantae, let me tell you about some classification systems. There is one which is called as artificial classification. Very short in this is not very important. Artificial classification is based on vegetative structures and sexual structures. Equal weightage was given. 50% importance was given to vegetative structures, the external structure, and 50% importance was given to the sexual structures. Now we know that this is not justified. Why this is not justified? Because the vegetative structures or the vegetative character is influenced by environment. The change in environment will change the external characters. It will change the vegetative characters. So it is not fine to give equal weightage to both the structures, the vegetative structures and the reproductive structures. Which system gave this artificial classification system? Artificial classification system was an earlier system which gave equal weightage to both the things. Which both things? The vegetative characters and the sexual characters. But this system is not justified because it is not justified. Reason being, the vegetative structures, the external structures are influenced by whom? They are influenced by environment. After this artificial classification system, we had the natural classification system. Second system which came up was the natural classification system. Now this focuses on what? This focuses on the affinities, the natural affinities among organisms. Natural affinities among organisms, what are the things they used to study? External structure, internal structure, cytology, embryology. Is it okay? Some more things have been added. External structure is there, internal structure is there, cytology is there, embryology is there. You all know what is cytology, you all know what is embryology till now. So these four things were the basis of natural classification system. Which four things? External structure, internal structure, cytology and embryology. This natural classification system was introduced by George Bentham. You have to remember these names. The natural classification system was introduced by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Remember these names again. It is George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. Moving on to the third system, that is your phylogenetic classification system. This is based on the evolutionary relationship between organisms. What does this system assume? It assumes that those organisms which belong to the same taxon have a common ancestor. Is it okay? This system assumes that all the members of the same taxon, they must be having what? They must be having the common ancestors. So I have done very fast the three systems. I did artificial classification system, which gave equal importance to reproductive and structural but this is not a justified system because the external features are influenced by environment. Then we came up with the next system, which is known as the natural classification system, which was introduced by George Bentham and Joseph Dalton Hooker. This was based on external structure, internal structure, cytology and embryology. Then the third one was the phylogenetic classification system. This is based on the evolutionary relationship between organisms, and this assumes that all the organisms which belong to the same taxon must be having a common ancestor. Now we have got some more systems which are helping out the modern systems of taxonomy. The first is numerical taxonomy. What is this numerical taxonomy? This is done by computers and it is based on all the characters. Numerical taxonomy is done by computers. It is just helping out. It is just an aid now. It is based on all characters. What is done in this? Some specific number and codes are assigned to each character. Each character, some number is assigned or some specific code is assigned, and this data is processed. All this data is processed, and now at any time if you want to study any organism, it can be studied because hundreds and thousands of data about a singular taxon can be easily stored. You can easily store. At a click, you can get a glance of all of them. So, what is being done with the help of numerical taxonomy? It is being done by computers. It is based on characters. Specific numbers or codes are given to each character. We need not go into details of this. Second is the cytotaxonomy. I think I have already told you cytotaxonomy, taxonomy which is based on cytology. That means taxonomy which is based on cell structure. When I say cell structure data, I mean the structure of the cell, I mean the number of chromosomes as well. There is another one which is known as chemotaxonomy. Chemotaxonomy, the taxonomy which is based on chemicals, means it uses the chemical constitution of plants. For example, what enzymes, what hormones, what proteins or what amino acids are present. What four chemicals have I basically discussed? Enzymes, hormones, proteins, amino acids. So these three are helping the modern taxonomy. Which three? Numerical taxonomy, cytotaxonomy and chemotaxonomy. Now, let us move on to the main system that we are going to study today, the main kingdom that we have to study today, that is plant kingdom. Plant kingdom again into 5 different categories: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. Listen again, 5: algae, bryophytes, pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms. Today I will be taking up algae with you. Let's see if we can finish algae today. Now, what are algae beta? You know that they are chlorophyll bearing simple autotrophs. They are simple autotrophs. They have what? Chlorophyll. So they are also known as green algae at times. They are largely aquatic. You can find them at other places as well, but mainly they are aquatic. You can find them in habitats like moist stones, moist wood, moist soil. Okay, so these are known as green algae. Some are also found in association with fungus. You know lichens, you've heard about lichens. Here they are found in association with fungus. And sometimes they are also found in association with animals. There is an association between sloth, bear and algae. So if I talk about two associations of algae, it is association with fungus, which is known as lichens, and association with sloth, bear. This is an example where an algae lives in association with an animal. So what did we do about algae? They are chlorophyll bearing, autotrophic, simple structures. They are found in moist habitats, mainly aquatic habitats. The form and size are highly variable. Okay, size is highly variable, forms are also highly variable. They can be microscopic unicellular, very small single cell algae, for example Chlamydomonas. Microscopic unicellular, for example Chlamydomonas, or they could be colonial forms. Colonial forms means living together in colonies, for example Volvox, or they could be filamentous forms like Eurythrix and Spirothera. I have given you 3 examples. For your level, it is sufficient for you. There is no need to go beyond this. See beta, when it comes to variability of size and shape, I give you examples of microscopic unicellular, it is Chlamydomonas, colonial forms, Volvox, filamentous, that is Eurythrix and Spirothera. A few are very large, a few of them, like let's talk about kelp. What is kelp? It's a marine form of algae. K-E-L-P, kelp. It's a marine form of an algae. It forms massive plant bodies. It's not small. Massive plant bodies they grow up into. What is the example I have given you? Kelp. What is kelp? K-E-L-P, kelp. It's a massive algae form which generally exists in marine waters. Let's move on to the reproduction of algae. All the 3 forms exist: vegetative, asexual and sexual. Vegetative, asexual and sexual. Vegetative reproduction generally takes place by fragmentation. I am sure you know what is fragmentation. So vegetative reproduction takes place by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction takes place by different types of spores. Different types of spores are formed, most commonly zoospores. There could be other spores also. They could be aplanospores, they could be hypnospores. I will be telling you about these spores in the last of the video, aplanospores and hypnospores. Remember, mainly 3 kinds of spores are formed. Zoospores are there, aplanospores are there, and we also have the hypnospores. But most common in algae, you will find which spores? Zoospores. You should know about zoospores that they are motile and they have flagella, and on germination they give rise to a new plant. So this is asexual mode. Moving on to the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction involves the fusion of 2 gametes. See beta, there can be 3 possibilities when we talk about sexual reproduction in algae. The first, both the gametes which are fusing are similar in size and both of them are flagellated. Both of them have flagella, motile, and both of them are similar in size. For example, Chlamydomonas. This could be one possibility. Or the second possibility is non-flagellates but similar in size. Size is the same but non-flagellates. For example, Spirothera. So, such kind of a reproduction is known as isogamous. When the structure, shape, size is almost similar, the gametes, what is this kind of reproduction known as? Isogamous. If you remember isogametes, from there we get this word isogamous. Sometimes there is fusion of 2 gametes which are dissimilar in size. For example, some species of Chlamydomonas. Okay? There are some species of Chlamydomonas where the gamete size is not same. Such kind of a fusion, if it takes place, the reproduction is called as anisogamous. Because the gametes are anisogamous. Anisogametes means they are not same in size. If the fusion of isogametes is taking place, that means those gametes which are similar in size is taking place, then this kind of a gamete is known as isogamous. And if anisogametes fusion is taking place, anisogametes are gametes which are dissimilar in size, then this fusion is what we call as anisogamous reproduction. Sometimes fusion between one large non-motile female gamete. Large non-motile female gamete. Remember, the female gamete is large and it is non-motile, and a small motile male gamete takes place, then this is what we call as oogamous. This is oogamous kind of a mode of reproduction. Example is Volvox and Fucus. Volvox and Fucus. Very fast about reproduction. All the 3 modes were there. Vegetative reproduction is by fragmentation. Asexual reproduction is with the help of different spores, zoospores, aplanospores, hypnospores. I will be telling you about it in the last. Then beta, sexual reproduction can take place by fusion of 2 gametes. It could be isogamous, where the gametes are almost the same size. It could be anisogamous, where they are of different size, and it could be where we have a large non-motile female gamete and a small motile male gamete. This is what we call as oogamous. Remember some examples also. I've given you some examples. Same in size, flagellated, for example, Chlamydomonas. Similar in size but non-flagellated, for example, Spirogera. Some species of Chlamydomonas, I told you they are anisogamous, and I also gave you some examples of oogamous, volvox and fucus. Let's move on to classification of algae. Algae are classified into three categories on the basis of what? We have classified them into three categories. So what is the basis? The basis is pigmentation, that means which pigment is present in them, the type of stored food in them, and the kind of flagellation. I am taking up which one first? I am taking up, there are three categories: chlorophyceae, phaeophyceae, rhodophyceae. We are taking up the first category first, that is chlorophyceae. They are also known as green algae. Chlorophyceae, they are known as green algae because of the presence of what? About chlorophyll. About 7,000 species are present in this class. Which class am I talking about? Chlorophyceae. About 7,000 species are present. The reserve food material in them is starch. The reserve food material is starch. They can tolerate a wide range of temperatures. For example, we have a variety which is known as chlorella. This is found in warm waters. Chlorella is found in warm waters. There are some forms which are snow dwelling. They live in areas where there is high amount of snow. For example, cryophytes. What do we call them as? Cryophytes. So those algae which survive in snowy areas, we are going to call them as cryophytes. The best example is Scottiella. 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 This is a cryophyte. When I say Scottiella is a cryophyte, means Scottiella survives in snow dwelling forms. Another example I gave you was chlorella, which is found in which waters? Warm waters. If you talk about the cellular organization, they are unicellular, they may be colonial, they may be multicellular, or they may be coinocytic. Coinocytic. This is one more term which I will be taking up in the last video. I want to take the new term separately so that you don't get confused. Coinocytic. The inner wall of the cell wall is made up of cellulose. The inner wall. Okay, the cell wall has two layers. The inner layer is what we call as, it is made up of cellulose, and the outer layer is made up of pectose. The outer layer is made up of pectose. This chloroplast has different shapes. When we talk about chlorophyceae, chlorophyll is of course present, but chlorophyll may have different shapes. It could be ribbon shape, it could be cup shape, it could be spiral, or even other shapes. Most of the members here, they have one or more storage bodies which are known as pyrenoids. Pyrenoids. What are these storage bodies called? Pyrenoids. And where are these storage bodies which are called pyrenoids located? They are located in the chloroplast. Where are they located? They are located in the chloroplast. These pyrenoids, they contain what? They contain starch and proteins. What are the two things which are stored in these pyrenoids? Starch and proteins. So what are pyrenoids? Storage bodies. What is stored in the pyrenoids? Starch and proteins. And where are pyrenoids found? They are found in the chloroplast. Some even store food in the form of oil droplets. Commonly I told you it is starch and proteins, but some also store food in the form of oil droplets. Let's talk about the thalamus. They are unicellular green algae. They can be flagellated, for example Chlamydomonas. They could be non-flagellated, for example chlorella. I am giving you examples. They could be flagellated, for example Chlamydomonas. They could be non-flagellated, for example chlorella. Sometimes even umbrella shaped. Okay, sometimes even umbrella shaped. Then a colony of few fixed number of unicellular individuals, for example volvox. Okay, understand this sentence. A colony for fixed number of individual unicells. Sometimes we have a colony where the number of unicells, the number of cells is fixed. For example, such colonies you will find in volvox. The number doesn't change normally. So we call them as what? We call them as a fixed number of individual unicells. Such a colony where we have fixed number of individual unicells is called as coenobium. What is it called? Coenobium. Listen to the spelling. C-O-E-N-O, coino. C-O-E-N-O, coino, B-I-U-M-B-M. Coenobium. So what is coenobium? It's a colony of fixed number of individual unicells. Volvox. I gave you an example. This is known as coenobium. Reproduction, when it comes to chlorophyceae, since it's an algae, it remains the same beta. I told you all the three modes would be there. We'll have vegetative reproduction. You know this. Vegetative reproduction, I told you, will take place by fragmentation. It could even be the formation of tuberous. Sexual, I have already discussed with you isogamous, anisogamous or oogamous. Similar gametes, isogamous, dissimilar gametes, anisogamous, and oogamous, large non-motile female gamete with a small motile male gamete, that is oogamous. Is it okay? Now, moving on to the new terms that I have done with you today. One new term that I did with you today is this one, if you remember, koinobium. I hope you have understood what is koinobium. A colony for fixed number of individual unicells, for example, volvox, is what we call as koinobium. I talked about 3 spores. Now let me go into a little detail and tell you about the 3 different types of spores or the words I used with you today. First one was zoospores. What are zoospores? They are motile. No cell wall is present in them. They don't have any cell wall. Zoospores are motile, but there is no cell wall present, so they cannot tolerate harsh conditions. So they are not considered as any protective structures. Why don't we consider zoospores as protective structures? Because they are not able to tolerate harsh conditions. And why they are not able to tolerate harsh conditions is because cell wall is not present in them. The second kind of spores are aplanospores. A-P-L-A-N-O. Aplanospores. What is the word? Aplanospores. See beta, the difference between zoospores and aplanospores. Zoospores are motile, aplanospores are non-motile. Zoospores do not have a cell wall, but aplanospores have a hard cell wall. And because they have a hard cell wall, they are able to survive in the harsh conditions. So they are considered as protective structures. I hope you got the main difference between zoospores and aplanospores. Zoospores are motile, aplanospores are non-motile. Zoospores do not have a cell wall, aplanospores have a hard cell wall. Zoospores are not considered to be protective structures, but aplanospores are considered to be protective structures. There is a third, very less common word used for spores, that is hypnospores. H-Y-P-N-O, hypnospores. Now what are these hypnospores? They are very thick-walled, very thick-walled resting spores. What are these beta? They are very thick-walled asexual resting spores. They are very thick. The wall is even thicker than aplanospores, and remember they are resting structures. They are in divorce condition, means they are in a condition where they are in resting phase, just for protection they are there. Then another word I used with you was koinocytic. If you remember, I used the word koinocytic with you. Understand what does koinocytic mean. Koinocytic word comes from the word koinocyte. C-O-E-N-O-C-Y-T-E. Koinocyte. What is koinocyte? It's a multinucleated cell. A cell which has many nucleus. What is it known as? It's known as a koinocyte. What is a koinocyte? A cell which has multi-nucleus, a cell which has many nucleus. And how does the cell form? This results from multiple nuclear divisions. The nucleus is dividing multiple times. One nucleus divides to form 2, 2 to 4 similarly. The nucleus divisions are multiple, but remember, there is no cytokinesis. If you remember, cytokinesis is division of cytoplasm. Had the cytoplasm also divided and the nucleus also divided, then we would have got a daughter individual. But here the cytoplasm is not dividing. Cytokinesis is not taking place. Only what is dividing is the nucleus, and many times it is dividing. As a result, what you will get? You will get a cell which is multinucleate. Such a multinucleate cell which is formed as a result of multi-divisions of the nucleus without being associated with cytokinesis, without being associated with the division of cytoplasm. Such a cell is what we call as a koinocyte. So new terms again with you, very fast. I use the word koinocyte, then I use the word koinobium. Don't get confused. Koinocyte, koinobium, zoospore, aplanospores and hypnospores.